Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Bucket List Reviews. My name is Gibran, and these are my top 10 films of 2015. Sicario. Personally, I think Denis Villeneuve has a brilliant filmography. There isn't a single film from him that I could consider bad, and Sicario is no exception. Sicario is a story of drug war that has been raging on between the FBI and the Mexican drug lords. Emily Blunt's character is a new recruit to the situation, and from her perspective, we get to see the blurred line between good and evil. What makes Sicario so great is that it doesn't rely on cheap thrills of action set pieces, but slowly builds up the tension until you're sitting at the edge of your seat, waiting in anticipation of what might happen next. Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro are menacingly fantastic in the film, and Roger Deakins' cinematography is once again amazing. But I do have one minor gripe with the film that I won't spoil it for you guys. But it has something to do with Blunt's character facing an intruder, and it just seems staged and momentarily took me out of the film. But in any case, with previous films like Prisoners, Enemy, and now Sicario under his belt, I have full faith that the Blade Runner sequel won't be just another money grab. Afrim. Upon discovering this film from the Berlin Film Festival, I decided to watch this Romanian drama comedy, and I loved it. Afrim is a film by Radu Jude that takes place in the early 19th century Romania, where our two main protagonists, a father and a son, are hired to track down a runaway Romani slave, who is believed to have robbed cash from his master, what later unfolds as part of the film's charm. The film portrays human barbaric practices in a unique, dark comedic fashion, mainly through the conversations that the father and son have along the way to their mission. In many scenes throughout the film, the father explains to his teenage son the stereotypes the Romanians have towards other cultures. There's a really interesting scene in the film where the duo meet a priest and ask him if Romani people can be considered as humans, and his answer is just as ludicrous as you can imagine. Surprisingly enough, Afrim is the only second Romanian film that has addressed the issue of Roma slavery. The first was a silent film from 1923, which is now believed to be lost. What this says about the racism in Eastern Europe against the Roma people is clearly obvious. I think Afrim is a great essay on how humanity has justified slavery through various religious or social biases that every society has. And the film ends on such a bitter yet truthful note that I won't spoil it for you guys. But it is amazing. Shot mostly with single shots and open landscapes, Afrim is a very authentic and brutal portrayal not just of the past, but cleverly juxtaposing it with the current refugee crisis in Europe. It's definitely a film worth checking out.
Așa, să vază lume că ai mers pe jos, nu ca vodă pe cap.
Mă doare, nu pot să merg.
Lasă, că decât orb și călare, mai bine șchiop și pe jos.
Hard to Be a God. This Russian film is the last film directed by Alexei German. Unfortunately, he died in early 2013, before it was finished in post-production. A group of 30 scientists travel from Earth to a nearly identical alien planet that is culturally and technologically centuries behind. The inhabitants of this planet have brutally suppressed a Renaissance movement, murdering anybody they consider to be an intellectual, and thus the planet is stuck in the Middle Ages. Like many Russian films, it is not the plot of the film that is the main emphasis of the story, it's the mise-en-scène of the film itself. Many Russian films generally work on poetic imagery rather than coherent three-act structure. What makes this film so unique is the setting of medieval Russia, connected with some sci-fi elements, really brings a haunting atmosphere to the film. Each character within the film has a unique trait or personality, and as the movie progresses, you somehow become a part of the landscape itself. This film is based on a book by the same name from the authors Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. They have also written previously Stalker, and the film version was directed by the great Russian director Andrei Tarkovsky. This is sort of a difficult film to recommend, as it's obvious that a lot of mainstream audience will get easily bored by it. But if you love Tarkovsky's work and you're interested in watching diverse films, then I would strongly recommend you to give this film a go.
Это не Земля, это другая планета.
Такая же, как Земля, но не догнавшая ее лет на 800. Подобных планет было несколько, это было поближе и поменьше. Кроме того, здешние серые замки привели к мысли о начале Возрождения. И 30 ученых забросили сюда. Но Возрождения здесь не было. Была реакция на то, чего почти не было.
Carol. I've always loved Todd Haynes' films. Not only are they smartly written, but the level of detail in his films are just outstanding, and Carol definitely stands out as one of his best works. Carol is a melodrama set in 1950s, where Therese, played by Rooney Mara, is an aspiring photographer who falls in love with an older, more sophisticated woman named Carol, played by Cate Blanchett. Within the midst of a difficult divorce process, Carol and Therese embark on a journey across the West, trying to find answers in a world gone awry. Now, normally period pieces are difficult films to produce, mainly because not many filmmakers can bring the authenticity of the era and encompass it into a film, and Haynes has done exactly that. Every dialogue, costume design, set production makes you imagine what the 50s America must have been like. And unlike the lesbian relationship from last year's Blue is the Warmest Color, the film could just easily work without its lesbian relationship. You can easily replace the romance into different races or religions, and it would still be as impactful. Like one of my favorite filmmakers, Rainier Werner Fassbinder, Haynes loves to explore doomed romances on screen. Although some of you might find the ending a bit predictable, nonetheless it's the most interesting melodrama I've seen in a while.
And your muse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
I'm starved. Bon appetit. What do you do on Sundays?
Nothing in particular. What do you do?
Oh, nothing lately. I mean, if you'd like to come visit me sometime, you're welcome to. At least there's some pretty country around where I live. Would you like to come visit me this Sunday?
The Tribe. What's the gimmick? The film has no dialogues, no music, and no subtitles. Tribe is a Ukrainian film which takes place in a specialized boarding school for the deaf. Sergei, the new student, is quickly inducted into a student gang, partaking in crime and prostitution. After a series of horrendous events, Sergei falls in love with one of the student prostitutes and breaks one of the unspoken rules of obeying the hierarchy of the tribe. The film is absolutely brutal in its depiction of violence and abuse. Without the use of dialogues or subtitles, the emotions and motivations of the characters appear utterly truthful and in some cases extremely barbaric. The world that is created within the confines of the boarding school mirror that of the Stone Age. Miroslav Stabowski's The Tribe is brilliant because it understands its limitations to sound and portrays it with various scenes involving long tracking shots, split screens, or even ambience. Each scene begins with the viewer picking up clues as to what the scene could be about, and the results are fairly rewarding. So if you're always interested in exploring the art of filmmaking, I would highly suggest to check this film out. The Revenant. Okay, this is probably the most hyped film of the year. How it was shot on sub-degree levels, how uncompromising was Inaruto with its production, and when you hear such stories, it's mostly the case that the film is going to be a complete piece of shit. Fortunately enough, The Revenant is far from that. The film is inspired by the true story of Hugh Glass, who was mauled by a bear and after brutally injured, is left for dead by his crew members. He then somehow recovers and vows revenge on the men who left him there. Yes, this film is a marvel to look at. Every scene is jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and the performances are quite convincing from DiCaprio and Hardy. I utterly admire Inaruto's dedication to make a film under such harsh conditions without bowing down to CGI, green screen, or any other such nonsense. He said he'll make the frontier look brutal, and by George has he done it. Now some scenes like the bear attack are obviously CGI'd, but they are so seamlessly blend in that you can't even tell them apart. For me, The Revenant is not in par with Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu's masterwork Birdman from last year, but you really have to appreciate the hard work and level of intensity that the film has. So do yourself a favor and watch The Revenant on the biggest screen possible. Mommy. Mommy is the fifth film made by the writer-director Xavier Dolan, and he is only 27 years old. That I find just insane. With every film, you can see Dolan improving on his craft, and Mommy could certainly be the pinnacle of his achievement as a filmmaker. Anna Droval plays the role of Diane, a widowed mother who now has to raise her troubled son Steve on her own. Along the way, Diane is aided by her neighbor Kyla, played by Suzanne Clement, and together they all form a special bond. Like his previous films, I Killed My Mother, Lawrence Anyways, and Tom at the Farm, Mommy takes a very personal approach towards the mother and son relationship. Shot in rare 1:1 aspect ratio, Mommy projects an interesting person portrait of various actors in their close-up shots, a special feeling that might not have been possible in the regular 16:9 ratio. There's a scene in the film where Kyla is invited to a dinner by Diane, and although it serves no major purpose to the film, it's one of the most memorable scenes I've seen all year. I enjoyed the fact that Dolan's characters are all incredibly flawed, but yet somehow you can sympathize with their flaws. He really has a special talent of bringing his audience emotionally and uncomfortably close to his characters and creating a brilliant mixture of aggression and sorrow between them. Mommy won the Cannes Jury Prize in 2014 and received a wide release last year. After 5 films, I feel there's still plenty more personal stories that Xavier Dolan could mesmerize us with.
C'était arrivé TDAH, opposant provoquant. Puis il y a un trouble apparemment, de l'attachement. Je me souviens plus du nom. Quand il était jeune, c'était pas si pire. On pensait que c'était juste l'hyperactivité. L'hyperactivité, c'est ça. Mais là, son père est mort il y a 3 ans. Puis, fait que t'en 2 minutes. Ça commence à puer à boucan ici. Je me donner un petit...
It is by my hand you arise from the ashes of this world.
Mad Max Fury Road. In the midst of all these pointless remakes or reboots, George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road stands out well above the rest. Like the previous films in the franchise, Mad Max Fury Road is a story which takes place in the post-apocalyptic world of desert, madness, and custody. This film has been praised to death at this point, but with a very good reason. Audiences and critics both somehow realized how much we took great action films for granted. CGI trash films like Transformers have completely destroyed the blockbuster action genre, with muddled cinematography, poor storytelling, and unnecessary CGI mess where you can't tell one robot from the other. It is now well documented that Fury Road was shot mainly with practical effects, and even the main actors performing the stunts themselves. There's a huge richness in not only the characters but the marvelous costume design. The simplistic plot not only benefits the film but also moves it in such a brisk fashion that the audience becomes an accomplice to the protagonist's mission. This film is an amazing spectacle and had me going in cinema twice just to rewatch it. It's funny, it's relentless, and it's simply brilliant.
Imagine Joe! He looked at me! He looked right at me! He looked at your blood bag! He turned his head, he looked me straight in the eye! He was scanning the horizon! No! I am awaited! I am awaited in Valhalla!
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to be the first to welcome you to Cincinnati.
Anomalisa. Anomalisa is the long-awaited return of Charlie Kaufman to the big screen, and this time he co-directed with Duke Johnson. This film proves once again that his voice is unique and more creative than most filmmakers in the industry. This film is about a man who struggles with his inability to connect with other people. And I guess this is all you need to know, because this is probably the best way to go since the film is ultimately quite rewarding if you have no idea what it's really about. Even the trailer of the film cleverly exposes nothing about the plot other than the fact that it's about life. Charlie Kaufman's previous film, Syndicate New York, was a brilliant film that got ignored by a large group of mainstream audiences due to its unformulaic storytelling. With Anomalisa, not only Kaufman has proved he is a brilliant storyteller, but also a fantastic director. At first, one might ask why this needed to be a stop-motion animation film, but upon watching the film twice, it now makes perfect sense to me. The story and visuals might not have been nearly as impactful if it was a live-action film. The story has a unique ability to seep into your subconscious long after you're done watching it, making you compare it with your own life choices and experiences. So if you're a fan of animation or unique storytelling, I cannot recommend you this film enough. Go watch it.
Hi. Oh my God. It's you.
Hi, I'm sorry to bother you.
No, not at all. Do you want to come in? Or?
I was just looking for someone. I think I've got the wrong...
Who's there, Em?
It's Mr. Stone. Michael Stone.
Really?
Before we move on to the top 10, here are a few films that didn't make the cut. The Look of Silence by Joshua Oppenheimer, Ex Machina by Alex Garland, Spotlight by Tom McCarthy, The Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino, What We Do in the Shadows by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, and Tangerine by Sean Baker. And my number one film is...
Gore Vidal. Tonight, the key question for every patriot is, can an aging Hollywood juvenile actor with a right-wing script defeat Richard Nixon, a professional politician who currently represents no discernible interest except his own?
Best of Enemies. This might come off as a surprise that I chose a relatively unknown documentary to be the best film of the year, but after watching the film twice, this makes perfect sense in my mind that Morgan Neville and Robert Gordon have created a masterpiece of documentation on film. The documentary takes its view into the late 60s, a time when the Vietnam War was raging on, and the liberals and conservatives were heavily divided in America's involvement in the war. It is at that time when ABC Network created a new concept for a show, a debate show between two intellectuals, William F. Buckley and Gore Vidal, and with that, television was forever changed. Not only Best of Enemies brilliantly creates the Vietnam War atmosphere, but allows its two main protagonists to shine throughout the film. Buckley and Vidal were two such characters with such wit and charm that I feel cannot be recreated fictionally. The 10 debates that they face one another throughout the film are not only entertaining, but a fascinating work of history. A big history buff myself, this film made me go back and review all the old debate footages between Buckley and Vidal. They are all available online on YouTube, so you can easily check them out. There are several reasons why I consider Best of Enemies to be the best film of 2015. In their interviews, Neville and Gordon reveal how it took them years of discovering old TV footages and interviewing various intellectual personalities. The information presented throughout the film is incredibly precise and remains objective throughout its runtime. None of it feels arbitrary or playing on an emotional level of the viewers, as many documentaries do. The only reoccurring theme of the film is that how they present the background information of Vidal and Buckley. Although they were men of conflicting ideologies, their upbringing and careers were eerily paralleling one another. It's a shame that the film is not getting the recognition it deserves. Neville and Gordon have encapsulated a great period of American history, and whether you side with Gore Vidal or Buckley's point of view, you may somehow weep for the lack of intellectualism that is clearly absent now from mainstream American television.
If you view debate purely as sport, let's call it blood sport, then really all bets are off.
Stand by announce.
You have one objective, and that's to win in that moment.
When you attack the position of your opponent, you have to first attack it clinically and rationally.
6, 5, 4.
But mostly what you have to get at is what's behind those things. What is driving the human being who is in front of you?
3, 2, 1. Deputy.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Are there any films that you would have liked to include into the list? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have a Facebook page called Bucket List Reviews. The link's in the description below. And until next time, we'll see each other again.